Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Leanne DeBurr, and I work in the marketing team here at Brainwave GRC. And today we'd like to thank you for joining us, and you'll be listening in a few minutes to Mr. Sebastian Feble, the CTO of Brainwave GRC. He's going to talk to us today about identity and access management. During the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will address those questions at the end of the presentation. So let's get started, Sebastian. I'm handing it on to you.
Thank you. So today, we'll discuss together during, let's say, something like 30 minutes about identity and access management, and basically how to get the most of your identity and access management investment with identity analytics. I'm Sebastian Feble, founder, general manager, and CTO of the Brainwave company. Please feel free to contact me after the webinar if you need to. If you want to have some discussion with me, I will be more than pleased to answer to your question as well, either through email or through LinkedIn. No props. Okay, so identity and access management. So if we take a little step back and discuss about identity and access management, perhaps the best is to start by a simple definition. I found this one, which I think is very interesting. So this is a definition actually given by Gartner. And the idea for Gartner is that identity and access management is actually the discipline that enables the right individual to access the right resources at the right time for the right reason. I find this definition very interesting because actually this is really a summary of what it means with identity and access management, granting the access right to people in order for them to do the job. Identity and access management per se is not a new topic, actually. Identity and access management programs have been launched during the last 20 years by now. And really the primary goal at first was really to increase operational efficiency. And we will discuss as well together about how it helped actually as well the company to mitigate the risk associated with logical access. We had successive generation of identity and access deployment strategy over the years, and it all started with this first definition. So actually, let's say 20 years ago, or at the primary stage of identity and access management, we were in a situation where the goal was really to build some kind of an identity warehouse in order to identify who is working for the company, as well as to consolidate basic identity lifecycle processes and access lifecycle processes. So really, managing newcomers, movers, leavers in the company, as well as access requests at a basic level. So at those early stages, we had, single sign-on solution deployed, as well as basic web access control and components or features such as identity lifecycle, so managing movers, access lifecycle, some services as well, and of course some provisioning in order to automate some IT tasks. So this was basically project mainly driven by IT departments in order to improve operational efficiency. And then we came to this phase, which is actually IGA. IGA is somehow in, let's say, 2012, 2014, a special moment in identity and access management where identity and access management and identity governance merged in order to become a single solution, identity governance and administration. And really the idea is to somehow to improve the way that we are managing both the people on their access rights by providing a better way to manage the access through role modeling. So improve access lifecycle through role-based access control and enforce access certification governance processes as well. So ensuring that those people in the company have basically the right role to do the right job at the right time. This is a merge somehow between governance and identity and access management, but still mainly driven by operational efficiency. Also, some services are added on top of the, let's say, the primary stack of identity and access management. So role modeling, role-based, segregation of duties sometimes, and basic access certification in order to review really the identity and access management model. So user role and role content. And it evolved, and things really changed actually in 2016, 2018, with really the idea in that we had to meet increasingly rigorous compliance requirements in an hybrid world. So with more and more IT systems located in the cloud, and more compliance constraints such as the GDPR, SOC 2, ISO 27K, NIST, and the rest. So this was a very special moment, actually, where not only operational efficiency was at stake, but really we had some kind of, let's say, new persona in the game. Auditors, IT compliance officer, internal control people, and the idea really was not only to provide operational efficiency improvement, but also being able to mitigate risk. So being able to enforce control at a finer level, ITGC control, segregation of duties control, being able as well to provide some new capabilities in order to answer to auditors' needs, to stakeholder needs as well. So we ended up with an augmented identity and access management stack with a better way to manage segregation of duties, ITGC control, audit and reporting capabilities, dashboarding somehow, in order to meet those new requirements. And then we are now. And now somehow IGA is, this term somehow will disappear. So this is only a personal opinion, but at some point it will disappear because it will become somehow commoditized and becoming a pillar for a trusted identity paradigm in a zero trust world where most of the assets will be located in the cloud. So the idea really with what is coming next is to have some kind of a 360-degree view of everything. So the people access at every layer, privilege access as well, in order really to move from some kind of a process posture to a more agile posture, where in this new world where most of the assets are located in the cloud, we are able to focus on what is really important, what is at stake, while the rest is somehow automated. So it's somehow in this stack, it's adding some new capabilities. So of course, a way to having a look at something else than basic user access rights. So really being able as well to have a look at privilege access management. So privilege access on one hand, data governance as well, IAM system. So access located in the cloud, in cloud infrastructure, and of course, analytics and intelligence in order to monitor both configuration and events in order to identify discrepancies, identify risk in near real time. So we are moving in this journey, IAM to IGA, trusted identity, zero trust architecture. And this is somehow a journey. Where you stand today, so most probably you have identified where you're standing today with your existing deployments. Every single identity and access management or IGA project starts with the same phases. So when you're deploying identity governance and administration, you always start with cleanup and entitlement, then identity lifecycle, account lifecycle, some workflows and certification, access reviews, and then policies and role framework, mainly at the very beginning of this phase to be able to improve your operational efficiency. But keep in mind that identity and access management is not just a project. It's really a program. it evolves along with the company, and it's somehow a long-lasting effort. As a typical, let's say as a simple example, I've put here some figures, some metrics, just for you to keep in mind that even for a mid-sized company, so here, this is somehow a very small company, you know, between 1,000 and 2,000 identities, in order to deploy basic identity and access management solution in order to improve your operational efficiency. So identity lifecycle, basic access lifecycle. This is no less than 200 man-days efforts, something around 18 to 24 months of deployment in order to be able to meet stage 2 requirements. So really, you know, stage 2 identity and account lifecycle here. And the reason is because this is complex, actually. You know, it involves both organization change management and complex IT integration. But at the end of the day, it meets operational efficiency expectations. And this is some of the primary steps that you need to meet prior to go further in this deployment journey. So what about the rest? So if you're already in this stage and you already have deployed an identity and access management solution and you already meet operational efficiency needs, what about the rest? Do you need to start again from a blank page, deploying a new solution with 18 to 24 months of effort to replace existing environment, or can you adopt some another approach or more agile approach instead? And this is really the idea with this webinar here on this short introduction. I'm very pleased to present another approach, something for you to think about. Let's consider identity and access management as something a bit different. On here, let's envision this not as a single project, but really as a program. As a program, you already have identity and access management, and actually it does the job in terms of operational efficiency. So it helps you to identify who is working for the company. It helps you to handle identity lifecycle, newcomers, movers, leavers. It helps you to automate access lifecycle as well. So in order to have access request processes, in order to somehow provision some systems, most probably not 100% of your system, but some system at least. So it does the job in terms of operational efficiency. So governance is actually something else. Governance is all about risk mitigation. So with governance, what you want to address primarily is to mitigate the risk in order, on one hand, to meet your compliance constraints, and on the other hand, to mitigate your risk, basically, okay? Have a better understanding of what's going on. So in order to do this, you have to deploy access-related control and process-related control. You have to, most probably, to improve the way that you're managing your access rights by deploying role models. At some point, because of compliance constraints, you need to deploy access reviews at an access level and not at an entitlement level. So really identifying who can access to what in order to review those entitlements from the systems themselves. And you need to provide audit and reporting for the stakeholders, the auditors, IT compliance officer, and the rest. And the idea is that beyond that, this is a bit different. And this is, at the end of the day, even different in terms of perimeters. If you take a little step back here and think about it, when you're thinking about operational efficiency for identity and access management, what you need to do is to think about ROI. So what will be your return of investment in terms of operational efficiency? So you need to automate or deploy provisioning work for the larger systems because this is where you will have the best ROI. You need to standardize your processes. So you need to define business role for, let's say, 80% of the people. You need to manage with operational efficiency in mind, so manage at a coarse grain level. So this is all about operational efficiency. And somehow the perimeter as well is associated with this operational efficiency. So you need to deploy identity and access management for operational efficiency on one hand. On the other hand, governance is all about risk mitigation. So perhaps that some systems are not automatically provisioned by the identity and access management system because you only have a few people having access to those systems. But those are very sensitive systems. And nevertheless, you still need to control them. You still need to have a very clear understanding about who can access to the system, who can do what on the system at a very fine grain level, not just at a coarse grain level. You need to monitor as well all the changes on those systems. So what happened on those systems? You need to identify at a very fine grain level, perhaps some permission conflicts within ERP system in order to tackle SOD risk for the business people. And everything actually perhaps is not exactly for the same perimeter as identity and access management, because here your primary goal is to meet compliance constraints and mitigate your risk. So at the end of the day, if you think about this with this PDCA approach as a program approach, okay, with identity and access management on one hand, governance and analytics on the other hand, and perhaps perimeters that are not 100% the same, with 2 dedicated tracks and perhaps even 2 dedicated solution and product, you will be much more agile because you will no longer have to mitigate or choose between operational efficiency and risk mitigation, or perhaps being in a situation where you need to provide operational efficiency first in order to mitigate your risk, then only on what you have, on the perimeters that you have managed through identity and access management. So this is really the idea. So think about it out of the box with those 2 tracks. So identity and access management on one hand, and risk mitigation on the other hand. And if you think about this way, actually the good news is that you have what you have put in place so far in terms of identity and access management still makes sense. Actually, it makes sense in terms of operational efficiency. What you need to do is to solve your governance list, but perhaps even with a new solution, a dedicated solution for identity analytics and risk mitigation. So this is actually what we do with Brainwave, and this is what we have done with a lot of customers in the past 10 years. So we are helping our customer to take the most of their existing investments in terms of identity and access management, and actually to leverage their investments in order to actually mitigate their risk as well with a dedicated solution, which is a Brainwave solution. So I have here several examples. So it makes sense actually whatever the company or the deployment size, So here I have some investment where we started with perimeters such as 1,000 identities, so somehow small perimeters in terms of identity and access management, to perimeters where we have a few, several hundred of thousands identities. So we have very large perimeters as well, where we have actually deployed the Brainwave solution in order to help the company to leverage their existing investment in terms of identity and access management. So it can be, for instance, being able to improve the way that access rights are managed by deploying Brainwave in order to perform role mining and role modeling operation. So grabbing data from the identity and access management system on one hand, and data from the systems themselves on the other hand, and compile everything in order to identify a role model, in order to refine existing role model, and in order to improve actually the role management, the identity management solution. It can be as well providing a solution in order to provide let's say, to address those new personnel needs. So IT compliance officer, auditors, so providing logical access rights matrix and ITGC control for those new personas, for them being able to browse through the solution with a 360-degree view in order to understand who can access to what in terms of infrastructure, application, data, being able for those people to have a very clear view of who can access to what within their perimeter only, in order for them to enforce their control as a first line of defense on a continuous basis. So this is a solution as well that we can provide in order to make this identity and access management investment visible for the rest of the company. For some customer as well, we have deployed segregation of duties control. So in order to tackle segregation of duties problem at a very fine-grained level, so in ERP systems, for instance, but as well to augment somehow or to empower identity and access management access request system by providing on-the-fly SOD checks for the access request system in order to ensure that those access requests do not embed new SOD problems. So those are some use cases that we are providing value as well. User access certification, of course. So we can both provide value in terms of user access in order to review the identity and access management solution role model. So user role on role content, whether this is an off-the-shelf solution or a bespoke solution, in-house solution. So we have several customers who have developed their own identity and access management solution where we're leveraging data grabbed from the identity and access management system in order, for instance, to run access certification campaign. So user role on one hand and role content on the other hand. And we also have a lot of use cases where we are providing access reviews on the data itself. So apart from identity and access management, we do provide access reviews in order to review access for very critical or very sensitive system at an infrastructure level, for instance, or even at a data level. So we can access to very sensitive shared folder elements, a SharePoint system, shared system in the cloud as well. So this is the kind of value that we can provide. Very last thing, and this is a use case which is interesting as well. Actually, let's say roughly 100% of our customers, so those who have deployed an identity and access management system, are facing a very basic problem. They have actually deployed identity and access management, but provisioning is not deployed for 100% of the system. And the primary reason is because of operational efficiency goal. So for some system, this is just too complex to deploy a fully automated provisioning system for those systems. So you end up in a situation where for some system, this is still a manual process. So it sends email or it creates tickets to an ITSM system in order to create those permission or those accounts to those target systems. The good news with Brainwave for those customers, and we have some where we have deployed the solution in order to tackle this problem as well. So Brainwave is grabbing data from identity and access management and from the systems themselves as well, in order to enforce access review and to reconcile actually what those users should have, as seen from the identity and access management system on one hand, on what those users really have in the systems themselves. On Brainwave automatically reconciles the both in order to identify the discrepancies and enforce access reviews of the gaps, the discrepancies. So what Brainwave is actually discovering in the same systems themselves that those users should not have, because actually we do not find as Brainwave system as governance capabilities an access request run from the identity and access management system. So we have some customer as well where we are enforcing those use cases as well. So a lot of various use cases. In terms of implementation blueprints, so this is really some kind of a companion tool that we have, with this approach. So you have on one hand your identity and access management system for operational efficiency, with automated provisioning for some system, manual provisioning for the rest. And what you have with Brainwave actually, and with the governance solution, is a solution which on one hand grabs data from the identity and access management system in order to have this view from the identity and access management system. So who should have access to what, who is having which role as granted from the identity and access management system, and grabbing data from the systems themselves as well in order to reconcile the whole thing. So not only what those people should have seen from the identity and access management system, but what those people really have from the systems themselves, and what those people really have from system as well who are not part of the identity and access management system. It reconciles the whole thing, provide governance and analytics capabilities, data quality, permission reconciliation, access certification, role modeling, enforcing control, access control, segregation of duties control, reporting and analytics for business people as well. And it pushed back remediation requests to the identity and access management system on one hand, and sometimes to ITSM system as well, depending on the use case. So this is really the implementation blueprint that we have. So most of the time, this is the way that we are deploying Brainwave in order to somehow provide additional value to your existing identity and access management investments. Okay, so as a takeaway, really, the idea here is to take a little step back on what you have done so far in terms of identity and access management on your current status or position deployment, and really to discuss with the team and with all your sponsors about what is really at stake. Do you still need to improve operational efficiency? Are you comfortable with what has been deployed so far in terms of identity lifecycle, access lifecycle? Do you really need to remove everything, start again from a blank page, or do you rather want to improve what you have put in place so far by providing new capabilities for those new persona, internal control auditors, compliance officer, by providing identity analytics to augment your existing investment. So this is really what I encourage you to do tomorrow at the office. So discuss with the team what is really at stake, what kind of low-hanging fruits you can grab in order really, to leverage your existing investment by augmenting your existing identity and access management solution with identity analytics. So therefore, answering to the needs of those new stakeholders with augmented identity analytics.
Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box for us. You can also feel free to join us on our website. You see the site listed there. If you have anything you'd like to direct to us yourself directly, we can answer that back to you also.
So we have one here. Okay, does the solution work with bespoke solution or in-house identity and access management solution? So actually what is interesting with this approach is whatever the identity and access management put in place, you always end with the same paradigm or the same concept. So access management is always about having those identities where you are granting access through either profile, role, a business role, or applicative role. What we have with Brainwave is an agnostic approach here where we can grab this information in order somehow to build what is called, so let me perhaps show you a slide here, what is called a theoretical view of what's going on in your system. So we have this view with Brainwave. So we have an agnostic approach where we can grab this information from your existing identity and access management solution. So it can be a solution from the market, actually. So we have connectors for such purpose, but it can also be an in-house solution. So we can grab this information, we can leverage this information in order to have this view of what we're calling a theoretical view. So what those people should have in the system themselves. And what we do with Brainwave actually is that we are grabbing, on the other hand, information from the system themselves in order to consolidate as a control framework the both views. So people, what those people have as seen from the identity and access management system, so role model, theoretical rights, and their real access rights, and we perform some kind of a gap analysis in order to identify all the differences between the access right as seen by identity and access management and the access right as that we found out in the systems themselves, in order to run all the mitigation processes and to be sure really at the end of the day that everything is perfectly aligned. So whatever the system, so we can do it. And we can do it actually with your in-house system as well, no problem. Okay. So time up. So we will run a new webinar in the coming months. So we will go to some kind of a deep dive here, where what we will do is that we will demonstrate through a real life use case the value that we can provide with a product demo. So stay tuned. The marketing team will most probably send you an invite for a new webinar where we will have 30 minutes of a demo in order to present you the user experience on how we can augment your existing identity and access management investment along with Brainwave solution.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian, for all that. We certainly will get that invite out when we have the webinar planned. And in the meantime, we will also email all of our attendees today with a copy of the presentation that was given today. Don't hesitate, if you didn't get a chance to ask us your questions, to send us a contact form on our website. And thanks again, Sebastian, for this great presentation.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.